All right, welcome back to Sports Insomniacs. It's been a while. I think last time was Friday, I guess Friday night when we were doing stuff on the MLB trade deadline and talking about Major League Baseball. It's been a while since then, and NBA free agency happened. Yeah, and
Yep.
Tokyo Olympics finished up. So I think those are the two things we're going to be talking about. And I think first, uh, we got to start out with NBA free agency and your team, the Lakers. I think were the biggest player in this free agency cycle for sure. Uh,
Sure.
so I'm gonna just let you just speak your mind on this. How you feeling about all these moves and all of that, and I'll chime in, I guess, what little I can.
Absolutely. Sounds good. I think in the previous pod, we did mention a little bit about Russell Westbrook, which was, one of the central pieces of the free agency moves the Lakers have made this year. So, I think we all know what my thoughts are there. I think he is a good ad, but I also question spacing and his kind of lack of perimeter shooting, which is what the Lakers really need. Historically, that's what LeBron really wants for him to, really have that success in order to really just, push for championships. And that's ultimately what we want to see here at the Lakers. I don't know, how Westbrook's going to fit there, but I think with LeBron handling the ball and then Westbrook and Anthony Davis and everyone else, like, just like getting on scoring opportunities, that will help a lot. So hopefully it works out in some way or the other. The Lakers clearly saw that shooting was a little bit of a problem, so they decided to address that in a myriad of ways. Some of them are a little bit questionable, but I think with how much of tight salary cap they're working with this year, they did okay. They did pretty well. I think getting people like Carmelo, Anthony, getting Trevor Ariza, those guys are a little bit older. I'd say like you could add Wayne Ellington there. He's 33, so he's older as well. But for the contracts they've signed, that's not too bad of a too bad of a deal to get them onto the team. My hope is that they could contribute in one way or another, just like in short pockets, especially when it becomes the playoffs. That's the only thing that we're really looking for in those guys. As for a good signing that I really really liked, I have two of them. I think one would be Malik Monk for sure. If I think that man, like, if you guys listen to The Ringer and, Bill Simmons has kind of a semi crush on the Charlotte Hornets, he always says that Malik Monk is like, one of the guys on the ascendance. And I think, I've watched Malik since he was at Kentucky, and the guy is just really, really talented. I think he's someone that, is developing more into a better and better player every single season. And for the Lakers to sign him, I really think they did well there. I think Malik's going to be, I think he's going to be huge. Honestly, just being like a really good shooting presence for the team that desperately needs it. And then second guy would be Kendrick Nunn. So Nunn is someone that I think is very good in terms of just like being a pretty tenacious defender. Also, just someone that's a pretty tough guard. Someone that can back up Westbrook, not at the price. We'll talk about this later. Not the price that Dennis Schroeder wanted to pay for, like
Yeah.
demand for, but someone that's also very much comparable and serviceable, in my opinion, to someone like a Schroeder. And so I think Nunn's going to be great there. So that's like a quick kind of like overview of what I think the Lakers have done there. What are your thoughts, Lai, about this?
Um. So from what I can tell, this seems like maybe it's an overreaction. I also think it's kind of smart. I mean, we've talked about how the Westbrook trade, there's some pros to it in that he can, he's a guy that gives a shit, and is a point guard that'll always give, bring 110% or at least 100% to whatever he's playing. He might not be the best fit. He might not be a great shooter, and there might be clogging of lanes. That's the cons. But I think that is a microcosm of like what these moves were. It feels like in a reaction to the Lakers kind of giving up against the Suns. You know, that I think LeBron just looked at that whole crew and was like, if AD goes down and if I'm not 100% healthy, I don't care if like they're not necessarily the best players. I still want people that I know that can just, you know, give a crap. And like if they're down by a huge margin, or if Anthony Davis gets injured again, uh, they can still play. They can say we can still win this. And so trading out, so let's say KCP was good, but KCP left, Caruso left, Schroeder left, and Kyle Kuzma, he left, and Montrezl Harrell and Drummond. That's those are people that left. When you think about how Harrell wasn't be able to be played that much because of, you know, mismatches when it comes to playoff time. Kuzma, everyone hates Kuzma, who's a Lakers fan, it seems like. Even though they forget the year before that, or at
Right.
least 2 years before that, he's kind of decent. I think he gets a little too much hate, but that's a different story. And then Caruso and KCP, sure, they're great, but I think they didn't really show up. They were they were hella streaky, and they were quite cold when it came to when they had open shots against the Suns. I remember, you know, just seeing your reaction and how you were when we were watching live, and how you're just like, these guys can't just make a bucket to save their lives. And they might be great in the regular season and their defense might mean something, but if they can't really do anything, you know, when it matters, what's really the point if they're not bringing some veteran presence to it as well? And I think when you think about, they just went full on the old people train. Like they just went full on, like this is an
Yeah.
all-star team from 2013. Like, and this
Right.
is 2012, 2013. This is like a super dream team. The fact, well,
Sure.
let's say 2013, 2014, because Anthony Davis was, you know, he was still, you know, he was still in college in 2011. So, and you have Dwight. I mean, Dwight Howard, they know he worked well with them. At least they won the championship with them. So
Yeah.
he fits a role. And Anthony, I mean, I think Andre Drummond was, you know, maybe not fitting it as much. So I think that's solid,
Agreed.
I guess, as a replacement. And let's say Carmelo Anthony, Trevor Ariza, we can go down names, Wayne Ellington, uh, none you talked about, Malik Monk. What you said, I agree. I don't have to add anything more. I just like that it's kind of a good, solid shooting replacements for the two assets in Caruso and KCP that I thought were actually good positives. This is kind of a good replacement in those two. I think that's a tit for tat good replacement.
So,
And if
yeah.
you can replace Kuzma with you just straight up kind of replacing Kuzma with Ariza and Carmelo Anthony, you take that because they fit certain, you know, 6-man roles, like Carmelo Anthony, especially with the Blazers, although Blazers were kind of underwhelming. I mean, Carmelo Anthony did what he had to do. You know, he fit a role and he worked well in it. I think LeBron at this point is, I think, just losing patience. He's getting old, just losing patience for scrubs that he has. And he's just like, I'm just going for people that I know can at least serve their roles. And they might not be the best at it, but I know that they'll be more consistent than what I had last year. Uh, so I think from that point, I think they're winners, and I think they did a good job. And we might say the spacing is still bad because you think about what's your crunch time starting five. It's going to be probably, I mean, you can work this out with me, but I'm thinking Westbrook at the point, right? You
Yeah.
have who's going to be, I mean, I guess
I
Malik Monk, who's going to be
I'd
shooting
like
guard.
I'd like Malik Monk if he can grow into it to be a shoot to be, you know, the starting guy there. I mean, anyone else I could be like, maybe you could put like a Wayne Ellington, but yeah, I think I'd put Malik Monk. I think
So
he's
you have Malik Monk, so that's your, you know, quote unquote spacer. Now
Mhm.
Caruso's gone. I thought he would be the guy, but that's Malik Monk. Then you have LeBron, AD, and is Dwight Howard. But let's say you don't do Dwight Howard, and that's too big of a lineup. You could put AD at the 5, LeBron at the 4, and you have extra spacing you could do with, let's say, Malik Monk and
Either Melo or Ariza.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's say Ariza, right? Or LeBron Ariza, even though Ariza hasn't been, he's not Houston Rockets form, or he's kind of taken a step back and he didn't do all that he was supposed to do with Miami. I think at this point, the defense of Ariza kind of compensates for maybe his lack of shooting, even though he's a 3-and-D guy. He's labeled as a 3-and-D guy, but I'd say he's not able to be, there's the same problem with consistency from the three that the other guys have. I think he's got a PJ Tucker esque type thing going for him where he can at least still defend and keep up that, like the Lakers, I think are just going all in on, also going kind of all in on defense when you think about it.
Sneakily. Yeah, that's
Sneakily,
true.
they're kind of going all in on defense. So,
Right.
uh, yeah, that's what I gotta say.
Yeah. No, I think definitely those are fair points. One of the things I would say is that Ariza, he's going to be interesting. And that kind of like starting lineup in crunch time. AD has apparently said that he's going to play more five.
Mhm.
And if you all know, especially Lakers fans, he's been very resistant to play the center position, even though he's very good at it. He's like
Mhm.
great when he's
Yeah.
playing at the five. The Lakers have the most success, but for him, two things: one, it's just wear and tear. He gets a lot more of that when he's at the five, and two, I think he just like sometimes likes to go outside and shoot some perimeter shots. So that's why sometimes he's not that much in favor of like just like being at the five permanently, but I guess it's what he's gonna do this season, which is gonna be awesome. But yeah, I think another point you addressed, which then we can just transition on, is that our two losses, the two losses that we had notably would be KCP and Alex Caruso. I think KCP definitely is one loss. We've filled it in quite nicely with these additions, like Malik Monk, with Trevor Ariza, with Carmelo Anthony, like shooters. But I think KCP, number one, he was so helpful in the finals during that win, right? During the bubble, and
Yeah.
that's something last year he didn't have during the playoffs against the Suns, but I still believed in him, and I know that he's going to be great. So, it was a loss, but I think it's something that we did well in replacing. The other one I think is a little bit harder. I think actually, in some ways, I think Caruso, who went to Bulls, which we'll talk about very soon. He was actually our best perimeter defender. So he was our best like guy on the perimeter, guarding those like quick fast guards. Also, plus minus was always consistently, I believe, among top three, if not, the best, basically like overall, like plus minus guy usually on all times for the Lakers. So he was always such a great fit for this team. He plays very well with LeBron. It's so sad to see him go, but we thank Alex Caruso for all the great work and championship he brought us. He's just like he's a different player. He's so underrated. I just think people should give him more credit because he is actually really good.
Yeah, I think a lot of, Caruso, maybe, there's a lot of the memes with Caruso. I mean, he's, he's bald and he's kind of young, and he was balling in Texas A&M like when he was a college kid. It was,
Right.
I guess he's seen sometime as more of a meme, or like, the fan votes. I remember he had a high amount of fan votes for like the All-Star game, and it was, but he, like, all of that aside, like, I think he's actually good,
He is good. Yeah.
and I think for Lakers fans at least, he was maybe the last shred of, that last player pre LeBron that wasn't like brought in to the Lakers.
Right.
He was one of the last people that was there pre LeBron, and so it was like you had I mean, of course, it was all dealt with the trade
Anthony.
for
Yeah.
AD, but Brandon Ingram's gone, Julius Randle's gone, D'Angelo Russell's gone,
Lonzo's
Josh
gone.
Hart's gone. Alonzo Ball. We can go on and on. Like Caruso, even though he was probably buried in a depth chart, he was one of those guys. And with Kuzma gone, but maybe there's more relief with that. But now that Caruso's gone, it's kind of the last remnants of that team, and now you're just going straight into, like I was talking about. I think LeBron just wore out his patience with that crew,
Yeah.
and just was like, I just want to bring in vets, and I got only a few years that I can really maximize this potential to like win championships and get over six maybe, and you know that go. I feel like his legacy, like LeBron takes so much importance in his legacy and like the GOAT debates and everything. I mean, he just came in to the NBA wearing number 23 as like a challenge to Michael Jordan. So uh,
Exactly.
I think that's gonna always matter to him a lot. So this was just, I need to win now. Um, and